Hey gang, it's Chris from Acoustics, and we're here today with the Sony BRAVIA Theatre Quad. It's a 4-speaker system that's meant to enhance your TV sound, and it is normally paired with a subwoofer for a 4.1.4 immersive surround system. And the reason that I say 4.1.4 is that each one of these speakers has a 3-way front-facing driver array. It's a tweeter, a mid-range, and a woofer, plus a full-range up-firing driver, angled to reflect off the ceiling so that you get 4 height channels and 4 main channels. Of course, with Sony's 360 spatial sound mapping, it will emulate a 5.1.4 or 7.1.4 system by creating these phantom channels within the mix. That's Sony 360 SSM, or spatial sound mapping. It'll also compensate if you don't have the ideal speaker placement in your particular living room, if things need to be a little bit off to the side or a little bit further back. There's a calibration system built in the Sony BRAVIA Connect app that allows the system to compensate for that, for less than ideal placement, and still give you a really nice immersive surround sound system. So it supports DTS:X and it supports Dolby Atmos. And something that's been getting a lot of news lately, it is IMAX Enhanced certified, which means it'll work with the new titles from Disney Plus that are IMAX Enhanced with DTS:X sound. It'll also work with Sony's Sony Pictures Core streaming application that has plenty of IMAX Enhanced titles. But the only way that it's IMAX Enhanced certified is if you pair it with one of Sony's subwoofers, like this bad boy that I'm sitting on right now, which is the SW5, the SW5. The SW5 and the SW3 subwoofers were introduced last year, and they're still compatible with Sony's 2024 soundbar and speaker line. So it's not a new sub that you need, it's one that's been available for some time. So this sells for $24.99 on its own. The SW3 subwoofer is about $350, and the SW5 subwoofer is $599. So you can probably get some bundles under $3,000 or around that price range, but it's not an inexpensive system. But based on some initial listening that we've done at Sony, it's a great sounding system, and it could be a really good solution for people who don't want a big sound bar or a very large speaker system in their home or in the living room. So we're going to get a little bit closer up and take a look at what's inside the box. All right, here we have the BRAVIA Theatre Quad. I'm going to open the box, see what's inside. Okay, so what we have is 4 speakers, and these are still wrapped in their nice little sleeves. And the control unit here, which is actually going to be the first thing we're going to take a look at. So this is a control unit that connects to your television and then sends the signal out to all of the speakers and the subwoofer. So this is the the part that matters, right? This is the rear control panel, and you can see it's kind of lacking a lot of inputs, but it has the ones that matter. And in fact, most people will probably only use this one. This is the HDMI port that supports eARC or ARC, audio return channel. And what that allows you to do is connect everything to your TV, and then a single cable connects the television to the control box, so you can connect Blu-ray players and gaming consoles and streaming boxes to the TV, and then whatever input is selected on the TV will be sent here for the audio decoding. It does have a separate HDMI input if you want to connect an Ultra HD Blu-ray player or gaming console or something like that, but you may not even need to use that if you use the HDMI eARC. There's also an S-center output, and that is unique to using this with Sony TVs. What it allows you to do is to use your TV as the center channel speaker, which would turn the system from 4.1.4 to 5.1.4. It does only support Sony TVs, and in our experience, it works pretty well with a TV that has a good speaker like the last year's A80L or A95L OLEDs that had actuators that turned the entire screen into a speaker. Works pretty well for TV and movies because it really locks the dialogue on screen, but we found that it wasn't as effective for music usage because it doesn't really match the timbre of the other speakers in the system. Good news is within the BRAVIA Connect app, Sony app, you can turn the feature on or off at any time. So you can see what you like better, sound quality wise, and enable it when you want it, and turn it off when you don't. Okay, that's the control unit. So next we're going to take a look at one of the speakers. Okay. There we go. Okay, and this is actually the back of the speaker, and underneath here is a screw to attach a standard speaker mount if you want to mount it on a speaker stand. This is the front, and you can't see too well because they're behind the grill, but there's a tweeter, mid-range, and a woofer, and then an up-firing angle driver here for the height channels. So it can be wall-mounted. In fact, if you take a look here, it comes with 4 wall mount brackets to mount it directly onto a wall. And again, with 360 sound mapping, 360 spatial sound mapping from Sony, the system can compensate for putting it on a wall and still make sure that it creates a nice spacious soundstage. If you're going to be using it though with speaker stands, then, or if you're going to be placing it on, like, say, a credenza or a table, then you'll want to use this other piece that comes with it. And it's actually a couple of pieces that go together. This piece and these. And the way they work, on the bottom, this mounting bracket goes on either side. And then the actual stand attaches to them, and it also comes with a couple of screws to attach these. And I'm going to just do a basic kind of connection here just to show you how it goes together. This will not be the final installation, so we're not going to tighten this all the way up, but you get the idea. It'll sit on top of your credenza or table like that. Okay. Now there's some other pieces that come with it. We're going to take a look at those as well. We've got an HDMI cable. Thank you, Sony, for including that. You can also use your own, of course, but this one should be certified for use with EARC. It should work well with 4K. Actually, the unit accepts up to an 8K input, but more likely you're going to be plugging in 4K devices because that's most of what we find these days. There's some manuals. Of course, user manual, setup guide. Sony 360 Reality Audio Trial. This is very cool. It's Sony's immersive music format, so it's similar to Dolby Atmos music. Sony's got their own, and it's available on several different services, including Tidal and Amazon Music. So that's going to be something cool we're going to check out in the full review. And it also comes with a nice remote control. The remote is pretty light and pretty basic, but it's got everything that you would need. The voice button will allow you to get enhanced dialogue if you find that you can't hear the sound very well when people are speaking. Sound field allows you to choose from different sound fields, including Sony's 360 spatial sound mapping. Input allows you to switch between the TV and whatever external input you have on there. And it actually has direct bass adjustment. If you find that on certain movies it's lacking bass or it's got too much, not a problem. You adjust it right here. Night mode compresses the dynamic range so it doesn't get too loud, and it actually cuts the bass output a significant amount as well so you don't wake up the neighbors or the sleeping family members. And the mute button, of course, mutes. There's batteries here for the remote as well, which we'll, of course, put in before we use it, but we don't need to put it in before then. So I did mention that there's also a subwoofer, right? So fortunately, Sony sent us one of those too. It is not included in the price, sadly, but there are 2 subs that can work with the system. There is the SW3, which is a smaller sub, And there's the SW5, which is the larger version, a little more powerful, and can extend the bass response significantly. When we reviewed the HTA 5000 last year, we actually used the SW3 and found that it was a little bit weak in the bass. It definitely enhanced the sound of the soundbar quite a bit, but it didn't really extend all the way down as we would like. So this one, the SW5, addresses that with a larger driver, a more powerful amplifier, and larger cabinet volume, so it can extend very deep, down to probably, well, maybe not all the way to 20 hertz, but it can certainly get down to that last octave. Comes with a power cord, of course, and we're going to just take a peek at the subwoofer as well. Over here. It's not super heavy, so one person can probably manage to get this out of the box. So this is the front of the Sony SW5, SW5 technically. It's got a nice kind of textured black matte finish. It's big, but it's not massive, so it could fit, let's say, next to a couch or maybe in the front of your room or in a back corner. Bass is relatively non-directional, so placement isn't that critical in terms of whether it can be behind you or next to you or in front of you. You probably will want to experiment a little bit with placement to get the absolute best response, as you do with any subwoofer. But there's some calibration built into the app that will allow all the speakers to sound their best in your particular room, and it also adjusts the bass response as well, and you can tweak that to your heart's content to find just the right frequency blend. So that's where we're at. I will show you one last thing, just as a point of scale. Here's the sub, and here's the quad on top of it. So, of course, you probably wouldn't place it this way, but this is what it looks like, and this is how it's sized, comparable to the subwoofer. So, there you have it. It's the Sony BRAVIA Theatre Quad. It replaces the HTA9 from last year, which was a very popular piece, but now in a different form factor. We have heard some demos of this at some Sony facilities, and it's been very impressive. We're going to be putting the system through its paces, and we'll publish a full review to ecoustics.com soon. Okay, so thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you at the next one.
Experience thrilling and immersive sound from SVS speakers, subwoofers, and cables. Join the sound revolution today. Visit svsound.com.